Yasmine will say to me, I feel like a complete failure, I haven't done X, Y, and Z. And I'll be like, are you joking? I think you're incredibly successful. I wish I'd done X, Y, and Z that you'd done. I haven't done that. And then you'll say the same to me. But why do we all get like that?
Hi, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Yasmine.
And we started an online community called Ecomm Girls Club because we had no friends.
Well, no, we had friends, just not friends working in e-commerce, D2C marketing and brand building like us.
And now we do. Ecomm Girls Club is the first international community exclusively for girls in e-commerce, and we have a lot to say about it.
So we started a podcast. We'll be here each week to talk about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, building online business and the problems we face in the e-com industry.
And we'll also be sharing the stories of the amazing women within our community who are all crushing it. So let's get into it. We thought we would start doing some more kind of chatty style podcast episodes because Yasmine and I frequently have conversations where we just go into like complete like holes about various topics. Well, yeah, meltdowns, but I was going to be polite about it. And I would say a solid 2 out of 4 Ecomm Girls Club meetings end up being a therapy session for at least one of us.
Yeah.
And I would say the current theme of the moment that we've both been struggling with / have been talking about is kind of feeling like a failure and feeling quite lonely when you're building companies. And we just thought we'd have a bit of a chat about it because it seems to be something that affects everyone. Like Yasmine will say to me, I hope you don't mind me saying, like, I feel like a complete failure, like I haven't done X, Y, and Z. And I'll be like, are you joking? Yeah. I think you're incredibly successful. I wish I'd done X, Y, and Z that you'd done. I haven't done that. And then you'll say the same to me. But why do we all get like that? It's like, why are we all...
I think it's like my friends joke with me that I've got short-term memory loss. And I think like there's probably an element of that. But also, you're only as good as your last win. And like, it's really hard for me to look at what I've achieved in the past and to continuously validate myself against that. Because in my head, I'm like, well, that was then. Like, I did that. Yeah, and it was great. And there was a lot of success there. And I'm very proud of myself. But I'm not doing that today. You know, what I'm doing today is, yeah, I'm still in brand. I have a brand. I'm launching a brand. Or I've launched a brand. But, like, I'm not where I want to be with it. And so I actually said the other day, I was like, I just want to get to the point where I feel really proud about what I'm doing today. This to the same level of capacity that I have, that I feel that I'm butchering this, but to the same level of capacity that I feel pride for what I've achieved in the past. Does that make sense?
Then,
I need to change this chair because it's so rackety.
It does make sense, but then playing devil's advocate, because I'm like this as well, I bet you didn't appreciate your success at the time. Like you never, I think part of being an entrepreneur or someone who likes building things is you're never satisfied. Like I'm never content. Like as soon as I finish one thing, I'm on to the next. I can't help it. It's like a disease.
I think like I completely agree with you, but I do remember feeling like really excited about what I was doing in the past. And I'd have like many moments of like, whoa, what the fuck? This is insane. Like I would. And I think that was because of the type of people that I was working with. And like, I'd walk into Sony Music Entertainment and I was like 22, like, what the fuck am I doing here? You know, meeting with big talent managers, massive talent. And so I have had many, and this is why I feel the way I feel today, because I've had a lot of success and I'm very aware of that, but I still don't, regardless of all of that, I don't sit here today and think, nailed it, completed it, like I'm done now. Far from it. In fact, if anything, the benchmark is so high that I'm thinking, well, I should be doing at least that, if not 10 times better now. That's why I really struggle, because I love what I'm doing now, but it's very different to launch your own brand versus launching a brand on the back of a massive talent. Like the outputs are completely different. And I could go into like detail of like the benefits of doing it this way. Look, having the long lens, growing slower, rather than like hype-based launches, etc., that are completely unsustainable unless you have certain things in place. But it doesn't mean like I still miss that adrenaline rush, I think, is the thing that I miss a lot. So yeah, it's like one of them. I'm just constantly chasing my tail, I think. like trying to beat my last win. That's how I feel anyway.
Yeah, but then I think at the same time, like as you go through life, like the definition of success changes as well, right? Because you're in a different
Yeah,
place
yeah,
and
yeah.
you've got different goals, I guess. Like when you're young, I don't think you have as much kind of pressure on you to succeed in this, you know, because you're young and you're like, wow, I've
Yeah.
done this amazing. But then when you get a bit older, everyone else is also doing amazing things, and you're like, oh shit, I'm behind. There's a point, I don't know where it is. I feel like in your 20s where the like button flips and you suddenly feel like you're behind. Do you know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I agree. I think as well, like when you're in your 20s, your early to mid 20s, you don't really have any responsibilities. Like you
no.
don't generally have a mortgage, you don't have kids. There's nothing really to lose. The risk is very low. And so I feel like that's why in my past I've always just been able to look at the highs when I was riding those waves, because it was like, whoa, this is insane compared to like anything else I've ever done. This is incredible. But now I'm 29 now. Like are we the same age? We are, aren't
I'm
we?
not 29 yet. I've got
Oh,
8
that makes
days.
me feel old. Oh yeah. Woo, happy birthday for Lucy. Um, yeah, but like you do start to look down the lens of adult life, and it's like, okay, if I want to have kids in a few years, what do I need to achieve within the next 2 to 3 years so that when I do have my first baby, I feel super accomplished and like like I've done what I needed to do. And I think the reality of that is I'm not going to feel accomplished. I'm not going to feel like I've finished what I set out to do, because like you said, actually, Luce, like you never really feel like you finished.
And it's like
Yeah.
the whole thing of, well, I find anyway, and I feel like you can relate. Every day running a business, there is a point in the day where I'm like, wow, killing it. You go. Go girlfriend, girl boss. Hate that word. But at the same time there'll be a point in the day where it's like, my life is over. This business is gonna fail. I am the biggest failure that ever walked on planet Earth. And it's just like the way it is. And it's like it's such a mental game. Like I feel like it's so exhausting, but it is true. Like the highs and the lows are pretty extreme because we don't have quote unquote normal jobs. And I mean, this is
Yeah.
also like public service announcement that I'm sure you're the same, Yasmin. I had a friend last week be like, wow, I was talking about what I've been up to and like presenting and the businesses and things like that. And they're like, wow, how do you do it all? Like, that's so amazing. And I was like, please
We
don't be
don't.
fooled. Please don't be fooled. Like the wheels are continuously about to fall off either one of my businesses. And it's like chaos and I don't have my shit together and my like well-being is probably on balance negatively impacted by running businesses, really. And I'm just always super conscious that like you see Instagram and you think, wow, they're doing so much, like this is so great. But behind the scenes, it's a very different story. And we both have our struggles like all the time, always having a
Yeah.
meltdown. Yeah.
What's the phrase? Ducks on water. Is that it?
Yeah. Like paddling underneath. Yeah.
Like,
Like, what is the phrase
what you
that's going
see
to
is the
annoy
tip of
me?
the iceberg. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
that one.
insert it. Um,
We'll put a little duck on the screen to demonstrate like what we mean paddling underneath. Like, yeah,
so
it's
true
true.
though, isn't it? It's like one day you can feel like you're absolutely conquering the world and hyper focused and incredibly productive, and then the next day it can just feel like what's going on. And I think as well, when you're starting something, it's like a chugging car. It's like chug chug chug, like it's so stop start, and you can be a million miles an hour and then you can be 10 miles an hour. And it's in those 10 miles an hour moments or days or weeks where I start to think, okay, we're losing momentum. We're not moving at the pace we need to be moving at. This isn't hitting this objective, KPI, whatever. That's when I get in my own head and I'm like, oh God, are we trying to do too much? Do we need to like really scale back and just focus on one business at a time? Probably, but we are where we are. And it's like trying to get out of your own head in those moments, I think, and just having this like longer lens view, which I talk about all the time. Yeah, I have this like longer lens view that I talk about all the time, because I think it's really important to have that perspective. And if you do have days or even weeks that are a bit slower, know that as long as you're working every single day incrementally moving forward, doesn't matter how small that step is, that will compound, and over a number of days, weeks, months, you'll look back and be like, wow, we've made some real tracks here.
But it's so interesting you say that, because I feel like the position I'm in at the moment with a pretty new agency, Ecomm Girls Club, and like the presenting stuff, and my life at the moment is like 300 miles an hour every day, and it is completely unsustainable. And I look at you when you like plan your days really well, and you do have days that are quieter, and I'm like, see, that's success, because you've planned effectively that you have that time. So it's like, again, the way you see it is so different to how I see it, because I see that as something admirable, whereas you're like, oh no, I'm slow, I'm not going fast enough, which is, I think that's better than the way I'm doing it, which like someone said to me the other day, oh my gosh, you have 2 businesses. I was like, it's not sensible, it's unhinged. Like, don't do it. Like, it's unhinged.
It's chaos.
You're just clearly mentally unstable, like, to do this.
It's literally chaos.
Yeah.
But we are already roping in help. Like, actually, just before this call, I had a call with Ellen, who is an angel. Yeah, I think like that's such a great move for us, by the way, to basically just to get help, because I was saying to Ellen, like, obviously I have Cloth Project, Luce, you have the Leaf Group, and we are so in our businesses, including Ecomm Girls Club, that it's really hard for us to like work on the business. And sometimes you just need people on the periphery or who are involved in some capacity to just sense check everything and be like, actually, guys, maybe that might not be the best move, or have you thought about this? So I think that's going to be a really good move for us, and just kind of allow us to have a bit more breathing room.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing. I said this to Yas literally yesterday on a call. Like, I love Ecomm Girls Club. We both love what we're doing. We're both the kind of people that if we didn't love it like 110%, neither of us would be interested in doing it, because I know we're both like that. We're built that way, that if we're not interested, we're not interested.
All or nothing.
At the same time, all or nothing. But at the same time, I'm so hyper aware that every hour I spend on Ecomm Girls Club, I'm taking that away from the Leaf Group. So, because I'm the main resource. So it's really hard to balance. And Yasmine and I would say, we have a really good way of working, where we split everything down the middle. And the general rule of thumb is, doesn't matter how you get it done, as long as it's done. So for me, that now involves using some of my team from the Leaf Group, shout out to Celeste, who's also a wonderful Ecomm Girls Club member, to do some of my portion of the Ecomm Girls Club work, because it suits her skill set and she's generally amazing. And it's the same as Yasmine on her side is now asking Ellen to help her, so that her side is taken care of, and it just keeps the wheels moving.
But I love it because I love it because it's like, I love working in a team, and I love having, I was saying to Ellen, like, obviously Lucy and I, we don't live in the same country. Like, we've met in real life like 4 times, but we run this business together. And it's the same with me and Sasha and Cloth Project. Like, Sasha's in London, I'm in Dubai. And I was saying to Ellen, like, it's going to be quite nice actually to have somebody who is kind of like my wingman, my little like right hand woman, because on my team, because I really, really miss that, because it's so lonely. And I know that sounds like, oh my God, it's so lonely, but like, no, it really is. I've not left my apartment in 4 days, other than to like train, get a bit of sunlight, and I think I eat my Joe and the Juice sandwich on my little balcony at midday.
Wild.
Like, that's literally my week.
Yes. Wild day for you.
I know, like, my life is so great. But no, it's like, you're so dialed into what you do that you kind of forget sometimes you don't actually see. Like, one day I didn't see a human, I didn't speak to a human being other than on like what we're doing now, or calls and stuff. So I really, really miss that element of team. So I'm excited to have Ellen join. It's nice that Celeste's involved, and like, obviously the goal with Ecomm Girls Club is to build out eventually a team to run it. We'll always be involved, have to be, and want to be. But just to have like some help with it, I can't wait for that.
Also, I think, well, one, it's funny how it's just naturally worked out that on both sides of our work, we've managed to engage Ecomm Girls Club members in Ecomm Girls Club and building the proposition, which means the world, because we know that Celeste and Ellen both really care about what we're doing and want to see it
Yeah.
succeed, which is super important. And like, we can trust them both implicitly with everything we're doing.
Yeah.
But the loneliness piece, like, I found it really hard because similar to Yas, like, I'm in Hong Kong, like, I'm obviously not near my family. I live by myself, and my whole business, bar the occasional event or like in-person presenting kind of work, is run online. So I can literally not leave my flat to do everything, which is not good for you, as I found out. And
Yeah.
generally speaking, I'm a people person as well, which I actually did a LinkedIn post on this week. I have a group that I do like training with on a Wednesday at Hybrid Gym. If you're in Hong Kong, best gym, and it's free, middle of a Wednesday afternoon. But I go to that every single week because it gives me like socializing and exercising at the same time. It's like bang in the middle of the week where you hit that point where like you are like, I haven't spoken to a human, which is an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I do have friends, everyone, don't worry, in Hong Kong. But it's important to build those things in as well, because when you're working on businesses that are run online, you can literally just, which is the best thing because it means you can run them from everywhere, which I love. But at the same time, if you can be on your own for like huge prolonged periods of time, and when you have too much thinking time, which is when we get to the point where both of us are like, we're failures because we have too much time to think in our own heads.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. And like also not having that person or group of people or whatever team in real life sat around a table, I don't think you get the same energy transfer over Zoom call. I mean, I obviously know you don't. And so I think that negatively impacts many things, productivity being number one, but just health and well-being. And so like for me, as you've just said as well with exercise, the way I mitigate that is exercise for me has become a core pillar of my life. I mean, it always has been, like since I was yay high, but I've actually recently over the last
You're still
3
yay
months,
high. You're still tiny.
You're so funny. I knew that was coming.
So
I was like,
tiny.
oh, don't say it.
It's because I'm like, I'm
so
extremely
small.
You're just
Tall.
vertically challenged. It's okay. I'm really long.
5'5". That's not that
I'm just
short.
It's not short. I'm just really tall. Like, don't worry. Sorry,
I'm
continue.
not that short. Yeah. So like over the last, I'm going to talk about like a couple of tools that have literally changed my life over the last 3 to 4 months. So number one is I've started working with a PT. Now this sounds really bougie. It's absolutely not. Shane costs me £179 a month because it's virtual versus like 80 quid a PT session. Right. So it's affordable. I would never pay money for a PT because I think I know what I'm doing in the gym, and I just wouldn't do that personally. But Shane is number one, affordable. Secondly, I actually started because like I needed some physio on my knees, but it's grown into this like schedule every single day where I'm basically set different tasks and routines that I need to follow to build up the strength around my knees. I do that every single day without fail. I think I get 2 rest days a week, and it's all like varying endurance, not like super intense. But my point is that gives me like every single morning something to wake up for and be accountable for, and to do that. It's a hard thing. Like I feel like everybody needs a hard thing in their day that they choose to do, because like then you get to the end of the day and you're like, I've won today. Like I've done something that's really hard, that's made me feel really good, and it's also given me structure and discipline and also all of the good endorphins. So that's absolutely changed my life. Would highly recommend doing something like that if you struggle with accountability around fitness, or just need something consistent every single day to show up for. So that's number one. And then number two is more of a software tool called Emotion. Have you heard about it?
Yeah, you sent me a voice note about it, I'm pretty sure.
I am their biggest fan. It has changed my life. And I know this sounds like an ad. It's obviously not.
I need to try it.
Who's listening? It's so good. And I'm not going to sit here and like pitch Motion. But if you are the kind of person who is not great with admin, who's a little bit disorganized, but who has a million ideas and a million things to do, Motion is for you. And it's changed my life. It's absolutely fucking brilliant. So.
However, I gave Yasmine the compliment of a lifetime earlier. I called
Wait,
her
what? Say it again.
I called you I called you an admin queen. I think you did like 2 bits of admin and like you did it without complaining. So I was like, well done, such growth. Like,
Oh God, you're making me sound like such a princess.
no, not at all.
I can do.
You can do admin. You're very organised. Yasmine organises the whole
Yeah.
podcast, so we wouldn't be here without
Which
Yasmine.
I'm now hiring someone to do for me.
Yeah, but I don't care how you do it. To my point earlier, like we just have to do like the
No, you're
same way
right.
that the newsletter appears to you, like the podcast just appears for me, and it's great.
Yeah, yeah. In all seriousness, though, this was a realization I had the other day. I think it really doesn't matter where you get to in your career or your level. You are always going to have to do work that you don't want to do,
Yeah,
and that's life. Yeah, and I feel like to have that mentality when you're doing that kind of work is really beneficial, because it's like, you know what, this is going to be Liv from D. Louise said the other day about the third. I don't know if you remember, but she was saying life is a third. A third of it's going to be really bad, a third of it's going to be okay, and a third of it's going to be really good. And so when you're doing the third that's just a bit shit, just remember it's just a third. That was not as articulate as she did it, but
no, it was. It was very articulate. And look, guys, as I said earlier, we're in Mercury retrograde. It is a bad third for everyone at the moment. That's my
when
my
does it actually end?
The 25th. I have burnt myself. I have broken about 5 different pieces of technology. Like,
Lucy said the other day, she was like, I have just cried actual tears from burning myself with my colours.
Like, you know, when you're like 13 and you don't know what to do with hair colours. That was me. I've like singed my chest. It's very, I would show everyone, but I don't think it's appropriate. But
it's a
like,
different podcast.
It's a whole different podcast. But yeah, I think it is useful. I always remember that though, when I'm having like a shit time. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast? I assume
Well, I hope so, because I do it all the time.
Okay. Well,
yeah, you are allowed. Like, podcast police won't shut us down.
The other day, like you think about it, when you're having a shit time, I always think like, yeah, but everything passes. You know, something will happen, and then I'm pretty sure I've said this to you before when you were having a rough time. I was like, one good thing will happen, and then it just like snowballs.
That is so true, and it's true. I feel like this is like the oldest trick in the book, but you know, the three like things happen in threes. Whether that's true or not, it really is kind of relevant, because it's almost more about recognizing that when things feel like it's all going wrong, it's not that it's a 3-3-3 thing, it's a compound effect, right? So like one bad thing happens and then another bad thing might happen, but the second bad thing feels 10 times worse than it would have done in isolation. So it just feels like the world is falling down around you. But to remember in that moment that, yeah, actually, this is just, it's a moment in time and it's going to pass. And I don't know about you, but I feel like whenever life just feels a lot and really heavy, that is a moment and you just work through it. But then it's almost like this release. And then all of a sudden, everything's really good again. And I wonder if that's just like because the comparison between the really bad time and then just like life normalizing again, it just feels really great. Who knows? But to your point, this will pass. It's, you know, nothing's permanent, nothing's forever, good or bad.
It is true. And I mean, we did a whole podcast episode about having co-founders or like running a business by yourself. And one of the best things I have to say about having a co-founder is if I'm having a really shit time or I'm swamped with client work or like the agency really needs my attention, I can just say to Yasmine, like, hey, we talk nearly every day, obviously, about something or other, but I can just say to Yasmine, like, hey, like, today I really need to focus on the agency. I don't have time to do this. I will reply to you in the morning. And likewise, we're so understanding of each other in that way because we both get it. Yeah. But it helps having someone there to be like, hey, I'm having a shit time, so I need to back off a little bit this week, but I'll be back on Monday or whatever, and just give each other grace. It's very helpful.
Or even just taking WhatsApp sabbaticals for a couple of days. Like,
that's our new thing.
Yeah, it is. We just made a rule that no WhatsApping on the weekends, because I don't know about you, but I have found WhatsApp to have become incredibly overwhelming, really stressful. My entire life is on WhatsApp, and I think that's probably the case for many people now, whether that's family, friends, or work. It's my entire existence. And sometimes I just I can't cope with it. And so comes to the weekend and I just have to switch off from the whole thing. I literally don't reply to anybody unless it's like I'm meeting them on the weekend or it's my boyfriend. But other than that, I just leave it. And I found that that's really helped. And like you said, generally people are understanding of that. I mean, I always take like literally 5 business days to reply to people or immediately. I hate WhatsApp. I hate it.
But it's quite interesting because it's like the complete opposite of what we were just saying about, you know, feeling lonely when you're running a business. But it's at the same time as like feeling lonely and being on your own. There are about 20 million people that want to speak to you on WhatsApp, or the other one that's my nemesis is Slack as well. And it's just different. It's not the kind of communication you want.
So stupid. Slack is just WhatsApp for work.
I always call, like, because half my clients are in Hong Kong, half my clients are in the UK, Yasmine's in Dubai, but I always call like 4 p.m. here, which is 9 a.m. in the UK, the witching hour, because it is the hour of the day where every single person involved in any of my companies / all my friends in London and my family want to talk to me, and I have to like put my phone on Do Not Disturb every day because it just... any clients listening, I do reply to you though, and I love you all, but it's horrible. Like, there's an hour of the day, and don't know.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah. And but the WhatsApp sabbatical thing is good for us because both of us work weekends quite frequently, but then obviously we're also more likely to have like social plans at the weekend. So like, I'm going to a festival tomorrow. It's Friday today, Saturday tomorrow. And I don't want to talk about Ecomm.
It's Monday today. Lucy's off on Tuesday.
It's
she's unhinged.
True. But it is important because it means that like I feel pressure to reply to people as well all the time. Like, I feel like bad if you're asking me a question, and I know you don't mean for me to reply in 2 minutes, but if you're asking for a bit of information from me that you need to do some work on Ecomm Girls Club, I feel so bad if I don't reply within like 10 minutes. And
do you?
Yeah, I get really bad WhatsApp guilt. I think it's because I'm in a client-based business, though. Like, it's
oh god, yeah.
So
you're so right.
It's just it's the way you're programmed. It's like anyone really talking to me who wants something from me is probably, sometimes they're a paying client, so I will reply like ASAP. You know.
So do you have your clients on WhatsApp? Like, do they WhatsApp you? Some of them.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah,
it's either Slack or WhatsApp. Yeah. And I think in today's world as well, like, most of my clients also follow my Instagram, so like there's no hiding. They know where I am.
Yeah, it's full on. Like, it is full on. Which is why, I don't know, I just think it is important to like, so this is why Motion, I found it really useful as well. Like, so I'm in Dubai, so I'm 3 hours ahead now of the UK. But my most so the UK doesn't come online until it's now 12.
Yeah.
12 p.m. Used to be 1 p.m. But the UK comes online 12 p.m. my time, which means I have, you know, most people who live here are like, it's great, I have the whole morning to do what I want, and then I start work at midday. That does not work for me. My most productive hours are in the morning. And so this is why, like, with Motion, I live my schedule is the same as if I'm in the UK. That's my working hours. As in, like, I actually start work at 10 a.m. and then I finish at 6. But having Motion has enabled me to put those boundaries in. So I still get a couple of hours in the morning to like do my training and whatever else, catch up on WhatsApps and whatever else it is. But then like I block out the full day to actually work, and I stop at 6 p.m. That's it. To be honest, I'm not productive past 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I push myself through just to do boring admin tasks at the end of the day. But there's no way, like, I can't do anything creative. To be honest, I struggle doing anything creative past like lunchtime. It just doesn't work for me. It's just not the way I operate. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think it's important to like recognize when you're the most productive, right? And like make your schedule accordingly.
Yeah. And I think it's a balance between like what works for you and then what works for your business. That's what I'm finding as well. Because I need to be
but what works for you is what will work for your business.
Yes and no. I used to be the most early morning productive person, and I've had to shift that because my meetings normally start 4 or 5 p.m. in Hong Kong.
So are you able to
So
be
now
productive
I work later. Now I am,
in
but
the
I wasn't.
evenings?
I found it really hard at first, but now it was this like whole guilt thing where I felt really guilty if I didn't get up before 7 a.m. Like I felt really like I was wasting the day. But then
I
one
still
of my
have that.
friends sat me down and was like, yes, but you're working till 11 p.m. Monday to Thursday. So of course you can't get up at 5 a.m. anymore. That would be ridiculous. You know, if you're only turning off your laptop at like 10. So it's just like, it almost took someone else to say it to me for me to like feel like it was okay, which is so stupid because like I'm in control of my day and it doesn't matter if I get up at like 7:30 or 8, you know, like because my clients come later, but it's just hard.
I completely agree with you, but I feel like that pressure, that guilt comes from if you used to be a morning person and you were most productive in the mornings, that's why you feel that pressure and that guilt, because that's eating into your productivity time if you're not awake in those hours. So that's where that guilt comes from. But now you've shifted that, then you probably don't feel like, you know, my
now
best
I'm
mate
super
Sash
productive in the afternoon.
Yeah, my best mate Sash is like, and so is Jim. They're night owls, and they like Jim for sure doesn't start working until midday, which is 9 a.m. UK time. He'll have his morning because he's most productive from 12 p.m. till 10 p.m. at night. So you're right about just structuring what works for you. That's the only thing, that's the best you can do. There's no point forcing productivity hours if you're just not productive in those time slots.
No, it's just, I don't know. It's like, I think when you're a driven person, like we both are, like the pressure you put on yourself is insane. Like, you don't even realize it sometimes until someone else says it to you and you're like, oh yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, but you just expect so much of yourself every single day.
Well, I think the best way to tackle that is to do constant check-ins on success, progress, you know, because that's the quickest way to see. I have to do this all the time. I have to do this all the time with the businesses I work on. And, you know, actually, I'm actually helping a bigger business at the moment with all of their MPD. And I just do this because I want to do it, this like bi-weekly roundup on a Friday of the update across the board, across everything. And I wrote mine this morning and I read it, and the email, it was so long. And but it was amazing just to put it all in one place and actually see in black and white the sheer amount of work that's going into this and the progress that I'm making and all this kind of stuff. And I think having those like regular check-ins with yourself, whether that's looking at, I don't know, sales data over the last 6 months where you started where you are now, or whatever it is, MPD progress or membership signups. Like, it's really important to just look back, because that's where you're going to get that perspective and actually realization that, we are making moves, and that's what you can, that's what you can do. Just keep moving forwards.
Do you know what I love doing as well? And I've done this for maybe, it must be like coming up 3 years now, is I journal every single morning. And
do you? I love that.
And do you know what? I just like documenting things. I love taking pictures of things. I drive my friends insane, I'm sure, with my incessant picture taking. I love writing things, and I love like journaling and things like that. And actually now I've got all these like, it's so nice to go back to like times when I was like working in banking, or this was just like the Leaf Week was a tiny little like dream of an idea. And it's so powerful to read back and like look at the things I was worrying about then, which now are like, can't believe I worried about. And the same thing I actually did was I started like vlogging when I decided I was going to go out on my own and set up a business and get an entrepreneur visa. I started like vlogging little bits of it. And now I've got this whole big film of like, it's all on my like iMovie or whatever, just of the whole journey. And I'm so grateful I have that, because
that's cool.
It's such like a big part of my life. So this is your like
that's really cool.
PSA to start recording things, people, because it is great like to look back on. It's like it's all like Instagram as well.
Any
life story
kind of platform or any form of anything that gives you that ability to review and reflect is going to be beneficial for you. Because otherwise, what are you benchmarking against? Otherwise, you're only ever chasing your next win. And that's never going to be as satisfying or fulfilling as it will be if you're comparing it against your last, because that's the progress. And then the other thing I want to say on this is, I always come back to this: if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't give it 5 minutes. Now, there's a caveat to that. There is a caveat to that, because you could look at, I don't know, I could be developing this lipstick and there could be a little bit of, I don't know, that text could be a little bit lower, or it could be like bolder or whatever. There could be a million different details on this that I could overlook, because to the I could be like, oh, that tiny detail doesn't matter because it's not going to matter in 5 years, or like, that tiny detail doesn't matter because it's not going to matter in 5 years. If you compound all of those tiny details, that is all going to matter in 5 years. So there's a little bit of common sense that needs to go into that notion that if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't give it 5 minutes. But I feel like it applies more to things a bit more emotionally led in life and business.
Yep. And I think it also, just to add on to that, I think it also applies to, you know, when you put yourself out there, whether it be on social media or through like opening businesses, you open yourself up naturally to people having an opinion. Like, they're going to have an opinion. People will say good things, people will say bad things. Same principle. If you wouldn't take advice from them, don't listen to anything negative people have to say, because there's always someone who's got something to say. And I personally think often if people say something negative, it's normally because it's like a mirror on them, and I always think they feel badly about themselves. It's to do with them, not you.
100%.
It's really hard sometimes not to take things personally when you really care about what you're working on or what you're doing in life. But yeah, if you wouldn't take advice from them, don't worry. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I also think the older you get, the less of a fuck you give. I don't know about you, but I've really like stepped into that era.
I'm just like, sure.
And I love it. Like, I'm almost bordering on, like, is this psychotic? Like, should I care more what people think? Obviously I care. Like, I'm not sitting here saying
everyone
I don't care what anyone thinks, I'm bulletproof. Everyone cares, obviously. But less and less and less, which I think is really cool, to be honest. I love that this is happening in my life right now.
I feel like I've got a great finishing statement that someone told me. They were like, your 30s, because we're both rapidly approaching 30, your 30s are better than your 20s because you have more money and you give less fucks. Like, and I was like,
100%.
Like, yeah,
100%. I love
live
that.
by that one.
I love that.
Well, I hope everyone's enjoyed our little ramble. We just kind of wanted to capture what we end up talking about on a daily/weekly basis.
Also, can we just put in a little request for people who are listening, just to let us know, like, what kind of format you actually prefer? Like, do you like these rambles that Lucy and I do? Do you prefer when we have guests on? Like, what do you like? Because we love doing this. Like, this is my fave kind of recording, when it's just the two of us. I love having guests on, but it's nice just to have a chat as well, to be honest.
I think because we do it anyway, Yas. Like, it doesn't matter if there's a camera here or not and a mic here or not, we'll still have the conversation. So if it helps anyone and you think that we're not completely out of our minds and we have some wisdom to share, then we can keep doing these. But I think that's it for today from both of us.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Chat to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And to get involved with Ecomm Girls Club, search for @Ecomm Girls Club on Instagram. And if you feel like taking your Instagram stalking one step further, we are both also on Instagram @Yasmine Chic and @LucyCG.